we're starting on page 61 in your grammar book, 61. By the way, before I forget, next week is spring break for us. So I won't see you for 2 weeks after today. So not next week, but the week after, we'll be back together for April. And I'll remind you about that at the end. But okay, it's page 61. We're talking about the who, which clause. Kind of cool because we already are using that in our writing. We just started that, started using that for the Miller, his son, and the donkey story. So a who, which clause is a dependent clause that begins with the word who or which. We already know that. Okay, Silas. Who, which clause can also begin with the word whose. We talked about that last week too. The possessive case of who and which. When whose begins a who, which clause, whose will not function as the subject of the clause because whose functions as a possessive adjective and shows ownership. Here's your example sentence. Robin, and it did say Robin's whose arrow broke missed the mark. So they fixed this sentence for you. It says the two sentences, Robin missed the mark and Robin's arrow broke, have been combined with a who, which clause. Whose takes the place of the possessive adjective Robin's. So instead of it being two separate sentences, they've combined it, just like we practiced in class last week. Robin, comma, whose arrow broke, comma, missed the mark. So those commas do go around the who, which clause in the middle of a sentence like that. When you mark it in this book, you're going to place parentheses around the who, which clause and write W/W above the word who or which. Write V above each verb and S above each subject. So here's your example of how you're going to mark it in this book for your homework. The men whose lands were taken hid in the forest. So whose lands were taken is the who, which clause. So you use parentheses around it, label it with W/W. Your verbs are your helping verb were taken. Taken is the action verb. And then if you ask who were taken, lands, the lands were taken. So that's the subject there. Your notes in the margin, just a reminder that a who, which clause contains a subject and a verb every time. Remember, that's the difference between a clause and a phrase. A phrase does not have both subject and a verb. It'll have usually just a noun and sometimes just a verb, but never both. So the difference between a phrase and a clause, the clause has both subject and verb. And then the first word of a who, which clause is either going to be who, which, or whose. And then the commas, unless essential. So you have to determine if the who, which clause changes the meaning of the sentence to determine if it needs a comma or not. If it does change the meaning of the sentence, you don't use commas for this example here. So the men whose lands were taken hid in the forest. If I take out the men hid in the forest, it could be any man, right? Or any group of men. The men hid in the forest. But because this is actually essential to the sentence, it's telling exactly who those men were. That means it's essential and you don't need commas. If it's non-essential, like this one, Robin, whose arrows broke, missed the mark. So you could still say Robin missed the mark, and this does not change the meaning of the sentence. You know, it's still Robin. Okay, that's the comma rule there. And then a run-on, you know about that. I'm sure you've heard that before. A run-on occurs when a sentence has main clauses that are not connected properly. So that's a type of run-on is a fused sentence. is two main clauses placed in one sentence without any punctuation between them. This is a common type of run-on error. The easiest way to fix this error is to place a period at the end of each main clause. So you're first going to find it. You're going to look for two main clauses that are missing a period between them. And then when you fix it, you're going to correct a fused sentence by putting in a period between the main clauses. Capitalize the first word of the new sentence. So here's showing you with the brackets. This is how you label your main clauses with the brackets. And then within the two main clauses, there's subject and verb pairs. You can see that. Could is a helping verb, and then pay is the action, and then it's talking about the men. And here, hid is the action verb, talking about they, the subject. So that's how you'll label it with brackets. You'll put a period between the two, and then you're going to find the subject and verb pairs. Okay. And here's showing you in the margin, MC is main clause. So MC. This pattern is always wrong. If you have two main clauses together, you have to put a period between them. This is how you fix it. Main clause, period, main clause, period. Any questions about this page? Okay. Let's move on to, oh, there's a little bit more on the back here. This is page 62, a little bit more. Think about it. Many words can be used as different parts of speech. However, a word can perform only one part of speech at a time. For example, swimming can be a verb, adjective, or a noun. That's a tricky one because, you know, usually when you see that ing ending, you think it's a verb because that's how you learned it, like in second grade. You know, run, running, ran, different tenses of the verb, but they're all action. Well, now you're learning ing doesn't always mean it's a verb, but the first example does show a verb here. Robin was swimming in the river. That's obvious, something he's doing. In this sentence, swimming is a verb because it follows the helping verb was. That's your clue, was swimming. A word that ends in ing functions as a verb only if it follows a helping verb. Was swimming makes it a verb. Here it is used as an adjective. Robin jumped into the swimming hole. That's, you know, something you find in nature where a pool of water is collected, usually near some rocks or something like that. That would be a swimming hole or a big hole in the ground. But that's describing the hole. So the adjective describes a noun or a pronoun. What type of hole? It's a swimming hole. So right there, it's not a verb, it's an adjective. And then here it's used as a noun. Swimming was Robin's favorite summer activity. It's a thing. Swimming is or was Robin's favorite summer activity. In this sentence, swimming is a thing. A noun is a person, place, thing, or idea. There you go. So the word swimming could be a verb, an adjective, or a noun. It depends on how it's used in the sentence, but it never will be used more than one way. It won't have more than one function at a time. You just have to pay attention on how it's used in the sentence. Any questions about that? Nope. Okay, then. Page 63. Let's see, Thomas, would you please read the sentence for us?
Because of the desperate times, these men, whose families were hungry, stole money from corrupt noblemen, and then they gave it to the peasants.
Nice. Okay. So dramatic, huh? So corrupt is our vocabulary word that just means guilty of dishonest practices such as bribery. So corrupt just means guilty of something illegal like bribery. All right, so we'll check vocabulary. Articles, you can write those in up here first. A, an, the, don't put and, it's an. And go ahead and find the two of them in the sentence here. There's two.
Me?
Everybody.
Um,
They're just gonna find them. You don't have to say it, Thomas. It's okay. We kind of go through that faster now because you guys are familiar with those, so that's pretty easy. Josh, I'm gonna go on to you for nouns. There's 6 of them, so help me find 6 nouns in here.
Desperate,
Okay, desperate is actually an adjective. But what is it describing?
times,
Yeah, so times is a noun.
is hungry one,
Hungry is also an adjective, so be thinking, remember nouns are person, place, or thing or idea.
families, men,
Yeah, families. What was the other one?
men,
Men, yes,
money,
yes,
peasants,
yes,
noblemen,
yes, there you go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yep, that's it. Good. Pronouns. I'm going to go on to Joey. Josh. Wait, who did that one? Was that you, Joey? It was Josh. Sorry. Josh. Joey. Joey. Help me find 2 pronouns. Those are words that take the place of a noun.
They,
Good.
there's 2 of them.
One more. The next one refers to a thing, not a person.
Is it referring to money?
Yep. What word is referring to money?
Stole? Or
No, here later, money and it. So they stole money from the crop noblemen, and they gave it, meaning the money, to the peasants. So it is a pronoun here. Okay. Silas, we're looking for adjectives. These are describing the nouns.
Desperate,
Good,
hungry,
good.
corrupt,
Yes.
and these. And these men.
Yes, and these men. Good. 1, 2, 3, 4. Nice. Good job. I'm going to come back to the prepositional phrases because if you struggle with those, which I do too, if you do, it's easiest to wait to find those last. Okay, so I'm going to skip that. We're going to go down to the who, which clause. So Thomas, back to you. Where is the who, which clause in this sentence? This is for you, Thomas, and you're still muted.
yeah, the who, which clause,
Yeah,
whose,
yes. Where does it end?
or hungry.
Yes, good. And then to label that, we're going to put W/W. That's how you label that. Good. Whose families were hungry?
Whose
And
families were
now-
hungry.
Whose families were hungry, right? There are 2 main clauses in here. Josh, can you help me find the 2 main clauses? They have to have a subject and a verb pair in there, and I know we haven't labeled those yet, but that's your clue.
because,
So this one here is the prepositional phrase. So it's gonna, the first main clause starts where it says these. So we're gonna put a bracket here. And then what's the end of that main clause? It's gotta have a verb in it. And so these men, how far does that main clause go?
all the way to corrupt.
Super close, you're gonna go to noblemen. So it's like a whole sentence, basically. So these men whose family were hungry stole from corrupt noblemen. That's a whole thought, basically. So that's a main clause. There's one more main clause at the end. What is that one, Josh? The main clause at the end.
They gave it to the peasants.
Yes, good. So gonna put brackets around that. Now, we do have an end mark rule here because we have two main clauses back to back, so we do need to put a period right here. My marker is kind of thick, but make sure you put a period between the two main clauses, and then might as well add a period at the end so we can check off end marks here. Okay. Thomas, are you paying attention? Just check.
Yes.
All right, okay. Subject verb pairs. I'm going to go back to Joey on that. Let's look for the verbs first. Where are the verbs?
Stole.
Good, stole.
Let's see. Gave.
Good. And then there's one more that's like a helping verb.
Were.
Yeah, good. Good. So we have were, stole, and gave. Now we need to find the subject, Silas. So the subjects tell who we're talking about or what we're talking about. So who were hungry? Who's the subject?
These men. Like, or the families of these men.
Okay, good point. So since we have a who's.
Oh, I
clause
guess it's
here,
whose.
yeah, it's who's first, but these men, so men is the subject for stole. So you were correct on that. And then
Oh.
there's one more subject down here in this main clause.
The peasants.
They gave it to the peasants.
It's
So,
either they or peasants.
yeah, but who gave? That's the question.
They.
Yeah, there you go. So they becomes the subject here. So I did that kind of fast, but did you guys catch that for the who's clause? It has its own subject verb pair. We just talked about that in our lesson. So the subject within the who clause is whose. That is the subject. Just kidding. It's not. I looked at my notes. It's not whose. I messed up. It's families. Is that, and I think I think you said that. So that was me. That was totally my bad. It is families. The families were hungry.
Tisk, tisk, tisk.
I know. Well, it goes to show you I'm human, right? So there you go.
Tisk, tisk, tisk.
All right, we got the subject verb pairs. Actually, no, I did that on purpose. I was checking to see if you were on your toes. Just kidding. I messed up. What can I say? All right. Moving on, openers. We have two sentences now. So we've got two different openers. I'm going to move on to Thomas. Remember sentence openers. Oh,
Openers.
hold on. I forgot something. Man, I'm struggling today. We didn't do the prepositional phrases. So Thomas, I'm going to have you pick one of those. Where is one prepositional phrase? And I'm going to give you a clue that it's a word that does not have a label yet. That's the beginning. That's the preposition.
Because.
Yes. So what's the whole phrase?
Because of the desperate times.
Yes. Good. Okay, Thomas, I'm going to have you find another one. I'm going to have you find all three. Where's the next one?
From corrupt nobleman.
Yes. Good. One more.
I'm looking. To the peasants.
Yes. Nice. All right, there you go. Those are your 3 prepositional phrases. Okay, in light of that, Josh, what is this opener here? What number and what type of opener is it? I see you looking back in your book. That's good. You can look toward the front of your book at that list of openers. It's like the 4th page in. In case you forget, the rest of you, it's this page. It's part of the index at the front or the table of contents.
Is it a prepositional opener?
Yes, it is. Very good. And what number is that?
2.
Yes. So number 3, 2, sorry, 2 and prepositional. So we'll put that in there too. Excellent. And then Joey, how about this one down here? What kind of an opener is this one?
Number 1 subject.
Yes. So I'm gonna squeeze it in down here just because I have more room, but you can write it above if that's easier for you. So it's number 1 subject. Nice. Capitals, those are obviously the beginnings of these 2 sentences. By the way, don't forget to check off your list so I can see that you've done them all. And then when you check your answers after you do it, put a little note up here which ones you messed up on. You can just say messed up on and point an arrow or something, or forgot this or need to change that, so that I can know what you messed up on and how you fixed your work. But I always want you to try to get it all first, then go back and check it. I recommend you do that for each page, like finish a page and then check that page, because, excuse me, that's going to help you be ready for it for the next page, rather than doing all 3 pages and then checking all 3 pages. Do 1 page at a time. Do a page, check it, and then do the next page and check it. All right, any questions about the grammar lesson today? No. Okay. Done with grammar. Let's put that away. We're going to do a little organizing in your binder next. So get your binder ready. Because we are done with the Miller, his son, and their donkey. Done with that one.
That's not an appropriate background. That is distracting.
Mom, I'm listening.
Oh, are you sure?
Yes.
Right
Okay,
here
what's your
where it
background?
says
Normal.
finished compositions. That tab that says finished compositions, go ahead and turn to that tab. And you're going to put away the Miller, his son, and their donkey. So, by the way, keep this one that has our stylistic techniques. This is the yellow page 21. Keep this one at the front of your book, so of your binder, so it's easy to find, because we're going to be adding to this again. So don't put this away yet. But this one, page 37. By the way, this yellow page goes somewhere else. So don't put that one behind finished compositions. Put this one, page 37, page 41, page 43. All of these go behind finished compositions and your keyword outline, or it's actually the story sequence chart that goes back there too. And then if you have a printed copy of your actual story, you can put that behind there too. Or if you hand wrote it, you can put that behind there. So basically, week 4, the Miller, his son, and their donkey, all of these go behind finished compositions. Okay, make sure you close your tab. Close your rings after you stick them in there. Okay, so you're going to stick those back there in the back of finished compositions. This page right here, page 39, goes behind the tab that says model, charts, and outlines. This page that looks like this. So you should have this page, looks like unit 1. Unit 2 should be in there. I don't know where mine is at the moment, but that's okay. So you're gonna stick this page behind the tab model, charts, and outlines, and then make sure to close your rings. Okay, Thomas, I don't see you moving around your binder. Did you already do it? Yeah, put those things away. So Miller, the Sun, and his donkey goes behind finished compositions, and then this yellow page that looks like this goes behind model, charts, and graphs. Model, charts, and outlines. Okay. Close up your rings. Now you're going to get out a new one. So go back to the front of your binder inside here. Go to source text. And hold on a second. Mine's messed up. You're going to get out week 5. Hold on, mine's messed up. Hold on.
I have my unit 3 composition checklist behind my week 5. Is that supposed to be right?
That doesn't sound right. Unit 3 composition. Can you hold it up in the camera so I can see what it looks like? And what week is that for?
It says week 5, but it says unit 3 composition.
Oh. So week 5, does it have the name of the story on there?
Yeah,
Does it say, oh, Odysseus and the Cyclops? Yeah, you need that. So you should have, this is what you're taking out today. You do need that one. Is it page 51?
Yeah.
Okay, you do need that. So this is what you need from behind the tab that says source text. So let me show you where it's at here. Here's the binder. Source text. You should have week 5, should say in the upper right-hand corner, Odysseus and the Cyclops.
yeah, I have it.
Okay, so page 45, you also need the next one, page 47, all of them that say week 5 at the top here. And the checklist, Odysseus and the Cyclops. So those 3 pages you need to take out. Make sure you close your rings before you close your binder. Okay. This unit is still unit 3. It's retelling narrative stories. We started it last week when we were, or the last couple of weeks when we were talking about the Miller, his son, and their donkey. It's the one that talks about the story sequence chart. So we're going to keep working on that for this story. You don't need this first page, but I do like you to keep it together with this stuff for week 5. So, we're going to start here with the actual story on page 47. So make sure you have that in front of you. All right. So this is another interesting story about, and it's kind of like not a fable, because fables are short, those are not very long. But it is a made up fantasy. I'll give you that clue. We're going to read this and then make a story sequence chart. So just kind of follow along with yours as I go. All right. Returning home from the Trojan War, the Greek hero Odysseus and his men encountered a great storm that carried them to the island of the Cyclops. Actually, no, Cyclopes. See how that one has an E and the title does not. So that would be Cyclops. This would be Cyclopes. So that's what they're calling the people or the creatures. These were crude, uncivilized giants who had one round eye in the middle of their forehead. They raised sheep, drinking their milk and making cheese. Okay, these are the Cyclopes. Exploring the island, Odysseus and his friends found the cave of the Cyclops, Polyphemus, son of Poseidon. They thought to take some milk, cheese, and lambs as supplies for their journey, but Odysseus chose to remain there, hoping to learn what kind of man this shepherd might be. Returning home that evening, Polyphemus drove his flocks inside and pushed a huge boulder across the entrance. After he made a fire, he saw the Greeks hiding in a corner and asked them if they were pirates or traders. Odysseus responded and explained that they were certainly not pirates, but soldiers returning from a great war. The Cyclops, unimpressed with the story, came up, caught up two of the men and dashed them on the ground, tore them limb from limb, and devoured them, leaving not even the bones. Forgot to tell you, there's some gore in here, some drama and gore. All right. Polyphemus then settled into a slumber. Odysseus knew that they were to kill Odysseus knew that were he to kill the giant in his sleep, he and his men would surely die in the cave, since there would be no way for them to move such a gigantic rock. The next morning, the giant awoke, milked his sheep, and devoured two more of Odysseus's men. He then left his flocks, blocking the entrance to his cave with a massive boulder. While the Cyclops was away, they planned their escape. They sharpened a great pole in the cave and hardened the tip in the fire. Odysseus recruited his bravest men to help implement his plan. Polyphemus returned, milked his goats, and devoured two more men. Odysseus then offered the giant a drink of sweet and strong wine that they had brought with them. It had been given to Odysseus by a priest of Apollo in Ismarus. There's more on the back. The Cyclops drank it, enjoyed it, and asked for more, promising Odysseus a gift if he would tell him his name. Odysseus gave him the rest of the wine. "My name is No One," answered Odysseus. "Now my gift?" Polyphemus responded, "Ha! Your gift is that you will be eaten last." Then he finished the wine and fell into a sound sleep caused by the strong drink. As he was sleeping, Odysseus and his men heated the sharpened pole until it was red hot, climbed onto the giant's great chest, and with all their might thrust the sharp pole deep into the Cyclops' single eye. The wood hissed in the eyeball like a hot iron hisses in water. Odysseus and his men jumped off just as the giant leapt up screaming. He tore the stake out of his eye and pushed the boulder aside and screamed for help. "Are you under attack?" asked the other Cyclops. Polyphemus cried out, "No one has hurt me." Ha! No one has hurt me. Well, if no one is hurting you, it must be the gods that do it, and we cannot help you against them. The giants returned to their caves. On the third day, the blind Cyclops let his sheep out of the cave one at a time. As they went by, he touched their backs, as he wanted to be sure that the men did not escape. However, Odysseus and his comrades grasped the underside of the large rams and clung to them as they left the cave, evading detection by the Cyclops. They hurried to their ship, boarded it, and rowed with all their strength. As they left, Odysseus shouted, "You are an evil beast, Cyclops, to devour strangers in your cave and are rightly served in losing your eye. May the gods make you suffer worse than this." Polyphemus heard him and hurled a great rock into the water, which almost drove the ship back to shore, but the crew redoubled their efforts. Odysseus shouted to the giant, "I am not no one. If any ask you who put out your eye, tell them it was Odysseus of Ithaca." The Cyclops hurled another great stone. This one barely missed the ship's stern, but created a huge wave that propelled them almost to the other shore. The end. All right. So obviously we've got this giant, I'm thinking the whole place has oversized animals. And I mean, I'm thinking even the rams were probably oversized for this giant. Because at first, when I first read this story, I was thinking, how did that giant milk a lamb or a sheep when they're so small? But they must have been oversized too. So it made it easy for the men to hold on to the fleece underneath the sheep, so that they could escape without being noticed. Because obviously he didn't have his eye. He was blind, so he's touching the fleece as they come out. So, all right. Kind of interesting story, a little weird, but very fantasy-like. So, all right. So now what we're going to do is start working on our story sequence chart. So go ahead and get out a clean piece of lined paper to start. And you're going to label it like you always do at the top with your name and date. Today is March 28. And we're just going to call this, skip a line, we're going to call this Odysseus. And the Cyclops. Underneath that, we're going to call it story sequence chart, which is still the keyword outline, but it's set up a little bit differently because now we're focusing on the elements of the story more than just every sentence or keywords from each sentence. So we're focusing on the elements of the story here. All right. I'm just going to give you a little reminder of how to set up the story sequence chart. Skip a couple lines, skip 2 lines here. And about halfway between the 2 red lines, actually a little bit more toward this line, I'm going to have you just draw a line down. So notice this side is a little bit more narrow than this side. It doesn't have to be exact. Don't worry about how many spaces long it is. It doesn't really matter. About that long. And then next to it on the right side of this is where we're going to start building our outline. So you're going to put Roman numeral 1 and then 1 to 4. Make sure you leave a space between the regular numbers here. The Roman numeral goes against the line and then leave a little indent right here for these 1 through 4. You're going to skip a line and you're going to do Roman numeral 2 and then 1 to 4 again. And as you can probably guess, you're going to do it one more time for Roman numeral 3, skip a line. And make your line just go 1 past that last one there. I'll give you a second to catch up on that. All right. I do want you to handwrite this part. I know that you guys like to type your stories, and I'm totally good with that. But for this story sequence chart, it does need to be handwritten because you're building this chart here. So now across, right above the Roman numerals, you're just going to draw lines across like this. Right above the Roman numeral, right above Roman numeral 3. And then go ahead and finish the box. Doesn't have to be perfect, but allowing yourself some space in there. All right, and this is where we're going to fill in the notes from here to remind us about how the story sequence chart goes. Remember, there's usually 3 parts to a story, a movie, a book, any kind of a story type situation. Who remembers? You can raise your hand. What goes in the first box? What do we normally introduce at the beginning of a story? Joey?
Characters and setting.
Characters and setting. Is that what you were going to say, Silas? Good. That is correct. So we're going to put at the top here, characters / setting. That is when we ask questions. Go ahead and skip a line and put who and where and what. So who is in the story? What do they like? What is their situation? Where are they? What are they doing? These are all questions that you ask when you're finding the characters and setting of a story. And typically it does happen at the beginning. So this is where we're going to list Odysseus and Cyclops. They're in a cave. What's happening? They're on this island, and there's giants with one eye, and there's shepherds. And basically what's happening at the beginning of the story, introducing the setting and what's going on. What about the middle part right here? What happens usually typically in the middle of a story or a movie? What do we have there? We talked about this a couple weeks ago. See if you can remember.
Usually the problem is introduced.
Yep, the conflict or problem. So go ahead and put conflict / problem. That's right. Good job, Silas. And this is where you're asking the question, what? But you're asking specifically, what does the character, and I'm just going to fill this in, want or need? You can just copy this down. Think, say, and do. And then I just draw lines to each of these. So basically you're asking, what is the character wanting or needing? What are they thinking or saying or doing? Basically, what is the problem? What's happening? All right, and then somebody other than Silas and Joey, what comes at the end? What element comes usually at the end?
Climax.
Climax, and the other word is resolution. Climax, good. I think that was Josh. Resolution. And that is how solved. How does it get resolved? So basically there's a couple of, sometimes stories can have more than one conflict or problem, but obviously these men, the Odysseus's men were trapped, right? That was the main problem. They were trapped inside this cave. And then what did they do? What did they plan? How did it work out? And then how they they made their plan, like how they did their plan and how it worked out at the end is basically the climax and resolution. Okay, so that is the sequence. Story sequence chart starts with character setting, conflict problem, climax resolution. Now we're going to start filling it in using keywords from this story to help us determine these different elements of this story. So the first character obviously is Odysseus. So let's look back at the original story here. It starts out introducing Odysseus and his men. They were coming home from war at the beginning. Let me zoom in a little so it's a little easier to see. The Trojan War. But the first character is Odysseus. So let's list him here next to number 1. 2 S's, E-U-S. Remember, the rules are still the same. 3 words. You can have numbers, symbols, abbreviations for free, but we're going to try to keep it to only 3 words. So who can tell me, you can just unmute if you think of something, but what are a couple of words to describe what is the character like? What's part of his personality, would you say, as far as Odysseus? There, he's the hero. Brave, okay.
Greek,
Say that last one again.
Greek,
Oh, Greek, yes.
Smart thinking.
Smart thinking. I like that. What if we used clever to describe smart thinking, because we can only have 1 word. So what if we did Odysseus, Greek, and clever? Those are good words to describe that character. And he is not alone. So who's with him? Who's with Odysseus?
his men,
His men. And I think later they're referred to as friends in the second paragraph there. So Odysseus and his friends. So let's put friends there. And where are they in this story?
An island.
On an island, okay. And who's on the island with them?
Giants.
Which are called
Cyclops.
Cyclops or Cyclopes, the island of the Cyclopes. So I guess a singular is Cyclops, plural is Cyclopes. So we're on an island with it, let's call them Cyclopes here, and it is capitalized with an E, Cyclopes. So we got friends, they're on an island with these Cyclopes. Now, I do want to tell you about these story sequence charts. You know, it's kind of free flowing. So it can be a lot different if you were to do this on your own without me. You might choose different words to put in here. You're basically answering these questions. Who is in the story? Where are they? And what are they doing? What are they like? And what is happening in the story? I forgot to add one more. It's when. Squeeze that in too. All right, so the next thing we introduced the Cyclopes now. So what are the Cyclopes again? You said the word earlier.
Giants.
Giants. So let's go ahead and put that here.
They're one-eyed giants.
One-eyed giants. How about let's put 1, because we can put a number for free here. 1
And
eye.
draw a little eye.
You could draw an eye. And what were those giants doing? Like what were they doing on the island? They were milking goats and lambs and making cheese. I think that's so weird. They raised sheep, drinking their milk and making cheese. So basically they were like shepherds. Right?
Obviously.
Farmers. What was that?
Just not good shepherds.
Not good shepherds. No, definitely not good shepherds. But that could be a word we use to describe them, that they were shepherds. Giants, one eye, shepherds. Where did they, we're asking the where question next now. So where did they live? Where did the Cyclopes live?
Caves.
Caves, good. I'm going to put one cave because we're talking about one in particular. And then what was the name of the main Cyclops? Remember his name?
No one.
This guy,
Polyphemus.
Polyphemus. That was his name. He was the main guy. Polyphemus. PH? Yeah. EMUS. And inside the cave was Polyphemus. And then what animals were in the cave with him?
Sheep.
Sheep.
Rams.
Rams. Yeah, sheep is more of a generic term for it, but yeah, they were rams, which are the male sheep. Okay, that kind of sets the scene a little bit. We have one more, number 4, so we're going to kind of start to transition into the next part of the sequence chart here. So basically at that point, remember he's inside the cave and he lights a fire. He gets everybody in there and he doesn't know the men are in there yet. And he lights a fire and then he sees the men in the corner. So let's put fire, men, corner. He sees them in the corner and then he asks them, are you pirates or soldiers?
Pirates or traders?
Or traders, yes. Pirates or traders, yeah. So that could be what's happening now, beginning at the next part of the sequence chart here. I'm going to use a symbol for the Cyclops. So let's see. Let's look back here. Because they started out calling him Polyphemus. This is on the cave of Cyclops, Polyphemus. But then later they refer to him as the Cyclops, right? But it's the same creature, it's the same giant. He starts out as Polyphemus, but then they refer to him as the Cyclops. So let's put C for the Cyclops here for number 2. All right, that's Polyphemus. And he's asking, are you pirates? Question mark. And Odysseus, how does he answer? How does he answer that question? Are you pirates or traders? What does he say they are?
He says they're soldiers from a great war.
Good. So Odysseus, I'm going to put an O here for Odysseus, says they're soldiers. And then I'm going to squeeze in war. I know I'm going outside my box, but my pen is too thick. So he's asking, the Cyclops is asking, are you pirates? And Odysseus says, no, we are soldiers coming home from war. All right. So now that they've identified themselves, what does the Cyclops do right off the bat after he tells them that?
Eats 2 of them.
He eats 2 of them. So I'm going to put the word devour. 2 men. And then what does he do after he eats them?
Goes to sleep.
Sleep. Okay, so you see how I'm setting up this chart here. I'm just kind of going through the story. We're at the part where we're heading into the conflict and the problem, which now we know they get trapped inside there. So I'm going to pause here on this because your homework is going to be to complete this story sequence chart. That's it. You don't have to write the paragraphs yet. You're just completing the story sequence chart here. So you're going to continue going through the original story here, looking at what happens next, thinking about the conflict and the problem. You're asking yourself these questions. What do they need and want? What are they thinking? This is where you're going to talk about their plan, right? They have that pole that they're going to heat up in the fire, and they plan out. They got the wine. They're going to give the Cyclops the wine and get him a little tipsy. Then he's going to fall asleep. And then this is where they plunge the pole into his eye. So you're going to save this part right here, the climax and resolution. This is going to be when he runs out of the cave, right? He blasts out of the cave and he screams, "Help!" And the Cyclopes are asking, "Are you under attack?" So I'm going to help you with this number 3, just so you know where this starts. So basically, the Cyclops yells, "Help!" He busts out, right? I'm going to put this in quotes here. And then the Cyclopes, which is the group of giants that live there, they're asking, "Are you under attack?" That's the scene for this last part, the climax and resolution. So your job, really, you've only got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 spots to fill in for your story sequence chart. So your homework should be really easy this week. Finish this using the story and do your grammar homework, and easy peasy cheesy, you'll be all set. Next week is spring break. So woohoo, get a little extra time next week. So no class next week. Yes, class the week after that. So I will see you in 2 weeks in April after Easter. All right, we're done for today. Good job, guys.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.